You're listening to Clocking Off with Clouds, your cozy corner of the internet where we talk careers, personal growth, and real life. Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Clocking Off with Clouds. I am Clouds Jew, and I'm your internet big sis on anything related to careers, money, personal development, and today we are talking about job applications and all the mistakes you should avoid making. If you enjoy soft and cozy chats about hard and complicated topics, then you've come to the right podcast. I upload videos every single Monday at 5 p.m. GMT on Spotify, so don't forget to follow me and also turn on your notifications so you don't miss any future episodes. For those who didn't know, I actually worked in graduate recruitment at an investment bank for 2 years, which means that every student who was applying for graduate positions, summer internships, and even spring weeks was going through me before getting that job offer. And I learned so much throughout those 2 years, and I want to spill everything. I want to share everything I learned so you have the knowledge and don't make the common application mistakes that I saw sitting behind the screen, reviewing those CVs and watching those video interviews. During my time working in graduate recruitment, I actually realized how much there was that I personally didn't even know and all the mistakes that I was making in my own applications. So obviously I took all my learnings and improved my applications. And I gotta say guys, from then onwards, I've been pretty successful with most of the applications I've made. I feel pretty confident going into interviews, for example, because I have so much exposure and have seen how they work behind the scenes. And as someone who grew up without a lot of corporate knowledge and someone who is a first generation university student and a first generation corporate girly, these are all the things that I wish I learned sooner. And I'm just so grateful I got this experience in graduate recruitment, because if it wasn't for that, I don't know when I would have learned these things, and it probably would have cost me a lot of potential jobs. I don't know if I would have even gotten into consulting without knowing these tips. So it's really important for me to democratize the things that I've learned, and that's exactly what I'm here to do in this episode. So strap in, grab a little beverage, let's get cozy and have a little chat about mistakes you want to avoid making in your applications. Okay, so let's start with the first part of the job application process, which is sending in your CV. And the biggest and most common mistake I see at this stage is people sending the same generic CV to every single job posting. By the way, I know I have a big American audience, so if you're wondering what a CV is, it's basically what people here in the UK call a resume. So CV, resume, same thing. During my time as a graduate recruiter, I would actually sit through and read through these CVs and decide which ones will go through to the next stage and get video interviews. Now, this was a few years ago, and I was also working at a smaller investment bank, but I'm pretty sure that most large companies these days actually use ATS software, which is an application tracking system, instead of an actual human being, which is what I was, sitting behind the screen going through each and every CV that was coming in. And because these days your CV will most likely go through an ATS software before it even goes to a real person, this advice is even more relevant and even more important. An actual system that is designed to filter through CVs and match the right CV to the job application is going to be even stricter than a real human being, which is why it's important to tailor your CV to the job description and to the position that you're applying for. I understand that this takes a lot of time, and I also understand that this is a huge investment, and a lot of students out there are applying to hundreds of job postings. So how are you supposed to make hundreds of CVs, right? There is an appropriate approach to go about this, and I would say is to start with a generic template of your CV, the bare bones, the main structure, the main things that you want to say in your CV. So make sure that you have 80% of your CV there, and then the extra 20% comes with tweaking, changing some words here and there, particularly some of the verbs and the adjectives, like the positions and the titles, to match the actual job description a little bit more. Now, I don't recommend lying in your CV, but there's definitely a little bit of flexibility that you can apply to make sure that the position is a little bit more aligned to the thing that you're applying for. For example, if you're applying to a consulting company and then you're also using the same CV to apply to a finance company, you could potentially, instead of just writing like consultant, you can make it financial consultant. At its core, the application tracking system will basically look at your CV and check how many of the words in your CV match the job description. So a very easy way to go around this is to just actually use AI and ask ChatGPT or Claude to go through it with you and say, can you tweak my CV to match this job description and make sure it is ATS friendly, so application tracking system friendly. That is something that could literally only take you 5 minutes. Obviously, don't just fully rely on AI because there is a lot of errors that it can make. I would go in there myself, but AI could do a good 70% of the work, and you just have to go in there and clean it up, tweak it to make sure it matches the job description. But as long as you have the bulk of your CV done, the tweaking actually doesn't need to take that long. I would say maybe 10 to 15 minutes maximum, especially if you're using AI to help you here. The second mistake I saw all the time at the CV review stage is CVs that weren't even in the right format. Honestly, format is such a quick win and such low-hanging fruit, and I apologize for using consulting jargon here, but I basically mean that it's something that is completely within your control. There are other things that are outside of your control, right? The experience that you're able to get, or the people who are competing against you, all these other factors are completely outside of your control. The format that your CV is in is absolutely within your control, so there's no reason why your CV shouldn't be going through because of the format. But when I was sitting behind the screen and when I was reviewing loads of CVs, I consistently saw so many CVs that were not in the right format. If you're a student or a young grad applying to entry-level positions, if you're applying to internships, if you're applying to spring weeks, if you're applying to graduate schemes, your CV should be 1 page long. Now, this doesn't apply to every single industry. I'm only talking about the stuff that I know, which is mainly professional services. So jobs like investment banking, jobs in finance, consulting, even jobs in tech, asset management, accounting, etc. Any sort of these professional service jobs, your CV needs to be 1 page long. When I was a graduate recruiter, I saw so many CVs that weren't even 2 pages long. They were like 1.5 pages, which is even worse than having a 2-page long CV. Honestly, if you're gonna go over, then at least do a full 2 pages. But even then, you shouldn't really go 2 pages. You should just do 1 page. And then I hear a lot of students saying, oh, but I have so much stuff to put on there and it doesn't fit in 1 page. It does. Trust me, it does. It does fit on 1 page. You're just not using your space efficiently. Trust me, if you are a student applying for graduate positions and you can't fit everything in 1 page, it's probably because you're not using that page efficiently. Your bullet point should not blabber on and give unnecessary details. Maybe you want to take out the personal profile section at the top of your page that doesn't serve that much value. Or maybe you could make your margins a little bit smaller. Trust me, you can fit it in 1 page because I know plenty of students with a lot of internships, a lot of gold in their CVs that were able to put it all in 1 page. If you guys are struggling with this and don't know what a good format looks like, I do have a full CV guide and 2 templates that you can download and just pop in all your information. It's on my link if you guys want it. If you want an easy way to just have a CV template that is already there done for you, then check out that link. Okay, now let's go on to the next part of the application process. What are some of the video interview mistakes I saw all the time? And the first one that immediately comes to mind is people reading off their screen or reading off notes, and it is so blatantly obvious that even if the answers were great, I had no choice but to reject the applicant, unfortunately. Reading off a screen will never be as impressive as just learning the answers and reciting them, even if you have to memorize them, but reciting them with confidence and naturally and speaking to the camera as if you're actually speaking to a person. Just because you are talking to a camera and just because it's a video interview doesn't mean you can read off your screen. It doesn't mean that the personal aspect can be completely stripped away. Just like in a real life interview, it would be pretty unacceptable for you to go in and read off a paper. It's also not appropriate in a video interview. Video interviews are an easy way for a recruiter to kind of do a rough vibe check of you. They want to figure out what the person actually feels like and speaks like and comes across outside of their CV. If you think about it, before the video interview, all a recruiter would have seen of you is on paper. They know what your achievements look like, they know what you have done, and they know what your grades look like, your experience, etc. They want to get a vibe check, for the lack of better words, but I feel like a lot of you guys will get me here. They literally just want to do a vibe check and see whether or not you can answer on the spot, see how you come across. The best way to come across well is to come across personable in a video interview, which is much easier said than done, but things like smiling and using your body language and using your hands while you answer and almost really pretending like there's a person behind that screen watching you, because there is, but really pretending like you're speaking to someone, almost like you're vlogging or doing a haul. I know a lot of us do that, so try to do that when you're answering a video interview. Don't come in a very robotic way that almost doesn't reflect who you are, because that is not reflecting your charm. It's not reflecting your personality. And those are the things that the recruiter is looking for, especially at the video interview stage, because before they decide to take time of their calendar and take time of the hiring manager's calendar to actually put an interview with you, to speak with you in real life or through Zoom or Teams call, before they invest that time in you, they want to know that you are worth that time. Come prepared prepared, come well rehearsed. You can even bring the notes with you, but ditch the reading off the screen. It's also pretty obvious. I feel like a lot of people think they're not being obvious. It's obvious. I actually once sat behind a video interview and I was watching it, and I could see on the reflection in the glasses, because the student was wearing glasses, I could see from the reflection of the glasses that they were reading off the screen. Now let's go to the final stages of the application process, which is the interview stage. There are plenty of things that you could do and you could also avoid that I could do multiple different videos about, but I'll just hit some of the big ones that I think are, again, quick wins, things that you can adjust and things that you can fix super quickly. The first thing is not doing a LinkedIn stalk of your interviewer before the interview. Most likely, before your interview, you will get the names of the people who will be interviewing you. Oftentimes, there'll be people who will be working with you, either your hiring manager or other graduates that joined maybe 2 years ago or so, who have gone through the application process and were in your position a few years ago. But these people, these names, search them up on LinkedIn, please. Please just go on LinkedIn and do a bit of stalking. And yes, they'll be able to see that you stalked, but it's fine. It's okay. Also, try to get LinkedIn Premium if you don't want people to find out that you've stalked them. A quick LinkedIn search can actually tell you a lot about a person. It can tell you where they went for university. If you guys went to the same uni, then you know you can bond over that, or the kinds of hobbies that they have through societies that they worked with, or through things that they've reposted, or through articles that they might have written. But it's so important to kind of get a bit of a vibe check, just like they're doing a vibe check of you. You want to be doing a vibe check of your interviewers to find a middle ground and find the things that you might be able to talk about and find ways to adjust your answers to the person that you're speaking with. Because at the end of the day, you want that person to like you. You want that person to feel like they have a connection with you, and that is much easier when you know a little bit about the person. When we had Korean consultant here on the pod, he actually told us that he really connected with one of his Bain interviewers because they were speaking a lot about League of Legends. This is maybe something you wouldn't really find through a LinkedIn search, but just knowing something like that could help you because, again, those connection points and those similarities, those are the things that you could really bond over, not in your technical answers, but in some of your fit answers and some of your small talk before and after the interview that could actually give you a bigger advantage than you think. Personally, I feel like it also gives me a bit of peace of mind knowing who to expect when I'm joining a call, because I don't want to know, like, on the spot who the person is. It's always a little bit useful to get a bit of a lowdown before you actually join the interview. Another mistake I'd avoid making is not asking any questions at the end of the interview. At the end of your interviewer will ask you if you have any questions and will pass on the mic to you. And a lot of students, because they want to get this process done and over with because they're super nervous and this whole thing is so nerve-wracking, they immediately say, "Nope, thank you very much for your time, happy to leave." That is such a big mistake, guys. Do not ever do that. Always come with at least 2 to 3 questions prepared for the end of the interview. Yes, you're there to mainly answer questions that come at you, but being able to ask great questions can earn you so many brownie points. Now, what are some examples of these questions? One thing to avoid is asking anything related to salary or timelines. Those are all questions that you could reserve for HR. If you're having a case interview or a fit interview with someone who's going to be in your team, say your hiring manager or other associates, analysts, managers, etc., you don't want to ask those kinds of HR questions. So now you're asking, okay, Clouds, what are good questions to ask at the end of the interview? One thing that is very safe to go with is questions about culture. So what is it like to work here? Is it a flat structure? Is it a little bit more hierarchical? What do socials look like? What is the overall culture that is embodied at this company? And that is not only a good and safe question, but it's also great information for you to know to validate whether or not you would fit the company. Another great question to ask is, what does progression look like in this role? It's easier to understand what the role itself looks like from the job description, but one thing that might be very invisible to you is what the role will look like in 2, 3, 4 years from now. So asking that from someone who's going to be your manager is a great question. Related to progression, another great question to ask at the end of the interview is, what does success look like in this role? What are going to be my KPIs or my OKRs? Let's break down this jargon. So KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator and OKR stands for Objective and Key Results. Basically a fancy way of saying, what are the things you expect from me from this role? Not just from me, but from people who are in this role. So what does good look like? For a business who's trying to make money, success looks like money. For an Olympian who's trying to make it to the Olympics, success looks like medals. What does success look for you in this role? Ask that. You can even give some timelines. So at the end of 6 months or at the end of 1 year, what does good look like for someone who is in this role? Not only a great question to ask, but also great knowledge for you to take in case you get the role and you want to do very, very well. Another question you might want to ask is, what kind of exposure do you get to senior leaders or clients in this role? Do you get to liaise directly with clients or present to directors and partners in this role? Is that something that is made available to you? And that will be an indicator of how flat or how hierarchical the org structure is. But it's great knowledge to have, and it also shows the interviewer that that's something that you're interested in. It's something that you care about. It's something that you want to do, like that exposure and that visibility to senior leaders is something that is important to you, which is a great reflection of how ambitious you are. So another great question to add to your arsenal of questions. Because I was personally applying to consulting, another question I asked all the time is, what does travel look like in this role? Because obviously management consultants are known to travel a lot. Some travel more than others. So I wanted to figure out for myself what that looked like in the companies I was applying for. So if you're applying to consulting, I feel like now these days is a little bit more different because of COVID, etc. But it still could be a good question for you to ask if you don't really know what to ask and if that matters to you and if that's something you want to know. Just make sure you don't leave the interview without asking any questions. And when they ask you for questions, don't just silent shut up and leave. Just like a date. I've never been on a good date where someone didn't ask me great questions, because good questions show interest. And interest is attractive. Okay, last mistake I see people make all the time, and this comes after the interview, after the application process, and it's not following up. Now, will following up make a massive difference to your application? I'm gonna be honest, probably no. But at this stage, it's such a small thing that you could do. Why not take the chance in case it does help? It's not gonna hurt your application, so why not follow up with HR, follow up with your interviewer, and just say something as simple as, thank you very much for your time yesterday. I had a great interview. It was really great hearing more about the company from you, or whatever, something simple. It could even be a little bit more simple than what I just described. I'm on the spot now, okay? Don't put me on the spot. A simple email or a LinkedIn message to your interviewer or to HR, just thanking them for their time, thanking them for giving them your insights, can work in your favor. Again, I'm not going to say it's going to make a massive difference. To be honest, it probably won't make a difference because your performance in the interview is what really matters. If you fluked your interview, a little LinkedIn message saying thank you is not going to help your case. I'm going to be honest here, okay? That's not going to make a difference, right? But if you did pretty well and another candidate did pretty well, that message might help them remember your name a little bit more, could even help like 0.1%. And at this point, we are taking all the chances we can get. We are taking all the percentage points we can get, right? So why not send a little message saying thank you? Okay, so for this week's recommendation, I'm going to be a bit shameless and do a little plug for my own CV template and CV guide. I actually have two templates that I share in my link. One of them is the one I actually use myself for my own job application. So if you want to have a CV like Cloud's, then go and check it out on my link. Also, to be honest, guys, interviews and application process is all about selling yourself. It's all about hyping yourself up. It's an opportunity for you to just say good things about yourself, which honestly, those opportunities don't come all the time. So take it. And I am applying that same concept to this recommendation section today. And I am doing a little plug and recommending my own CV guide and CV template. It's like the only digital product that I have. I want to do more, but I just don't have the time to create them. If you guys actually have other digital products you want to see from me, obviously I have the CV template, but if there's other things like cover letter guides or video interview guides, budget trackers, anything else that you might want to see from me, let me know so I can put some time in and create those things. I told myself I was going to make more digital products for you guys so you guys can have access to all these things that I'm sharing, but it takes time and effort to make these, so it just ends up at the bottom of my priority list. But I was actually thinking of doing a consulting one-on-one guide, but if there's anything else that you guys think would be even more useful than that, let me know. I want to put more stuff out there for you guys because I know it can be helpful, and I can yap and give all the advice in the world, but sometimes nothing is more helpful than an actual template you guys can use or an actual guide or document or PDF that you guys can read. So let me know what would be useful. All right, I'll end it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. I'm always open to answering them because it's so important to me that you guys feel well equipped to applying and feel well equipped to tackle the application process. Please give this episode a like and comment down below if you enjoyed it. Again, don't forget to turn on the notifications and follow me so you don't miss any future episodes. Bye and see you guys next Monday. Have a good weekend. A good weekend? Have a good week. Have a good week. Or weekend if you listen to this on a Friday. Okay, bye.